to the trauma that they have experienced. And what happens is it causes folk to isolate themselves, to distance themselves, to disengage, to quit. You've quit already, but you just haven't let everybody else know that you quit. There's no emotional engagement. There's no physical engagement. You just kind of to yourself, just I'm kind of fall back and hibernate. And what do you do during that time? You're in the house, you're in your sweats, you got your leggings, your t-shirt on, your hair wrapped up, you going to work, you coming straight home. Somebody invites you out, you're like, no, I'm good, I'm gonna go home and rest. I'm just gonna go home and rest. I don't really feel like doing anything right now. And there's nothing wrong with you physically, but you have made a decision that you want to be isolated, you want to be disconnected. And I'm going to tell you guys that we all have been there, and some of us are there right now, even coming out of it. I myself have been there, and I'm going to tell you guys that it is comfortable in the cave. It's comfortable not having to deal with other folk problems, not having to deal with other folks' situations. It's comfortable just being to yourself, and you can just roll over and watch TV and eat and snack and all of that, and just kind of be to yourself and not really engage with anyone else. But when we talked about what happened to make us go into the cave, or examples of us being in the cave last week, we talked about many times when we go there, it's because we're operating in a state of offense. We feel like we're alone. We're going through grief or discontentment or debt, or we're depressed, or we're down, and we don't feel like we have the support that we need. And so what happens is we get comfortable there, y'all. We'll get comfortable saying, well, I'm just going to be to myself, just me and my family, or me and my, close friends, no new friends. And we have these cliche statements that we make. But the reality is we know that we're not living our best life. How do we know that? Because when we look around and we see the people that we were connected to, or that we are connected to, kind of living their best life, there's a part of us that's like, oh, wow, that person is doing so and so now. And it's like we've missed a segment of our lives. But God desires that we come out of the cave. It is time to wake up, y'all. We got to get up, get out, and get something. We can't let the days of our life pass by. We got to get up, get out, and get something. We can't spend all our time getting ready to die. We got to get up because God has something that he desires for us to do. And there are people waiting on us, and there are things that he wants us to accomplish. There are goals that the Lord himself has put in our spirits that he wants us to carry out. And so we have to make a conscious decision that we want to come out, and that we have to get up so that we can move into the position that he will have us to move in. And I'm telling you guys, 2019 is the year that God wants to do it for us. But we have to make a decision to get up, because nobody can make you get up. And thank you, Holy Spirit, for this. I think about, I don't know if anybody growing up, you were not a morning person. So your alarm clock will go off. You're hitting it 50 times. Some of us are still there that right now with that. You are the person who you have to get like 15 wake up calls. People had to come in and wake you up, pull you out of the bed and say, listen, come on, you got to get up. You're going to be late. And you just, something about that bed, you just did not want to get up. You're like, oh, you know what? I'm good. Even now, sometimes sleeping in, it's like, whoo, this feels so great to be able to sleep in. I don't have any obligations, but you can't live your life like that, because there are times where your attention, your physical presence is needed. There's somebody that you're missing events because you don't feel comfortable. You don't feel safe being in the space of others, or you have just made a decision that you're going to kind of stay to yourself because there was something that took place in the last season. But God is saying to us on today that we got to get up, get out, and get something. And the example that the Lord gave me for someone that had spent some time in the cave was Jonah. I made a joke about Jonah last week, and then the Lord led me right to Jonah last week. And so Jonah chapter 1, that's where we're going to go next, to kind of paint this picture a little clearer so that we can see ourselves and see what it is that the Lord will have us to do. So Jonah 1 verse 1, the word of the Lord came to Jonah, son of Amittai. Go to the great city of Nineveh and preach against it, because its wickedness have come up before me. Has anybody, the Lord, ever given you a challenge and you looked at that situation and you're like, oh my gosh, these folk are not going to receive this, or this is going to be difficult, or I can already see that so-and-so is not going to like me, or I'm in here and this is going to be very different. I don't look like them. I don't sound like them. I don't dress like them. I am unique. You know, when you walk in, you know, when you've been given this assignment, that this is going to be something that's going to test you. So Jonah finds himself getting this word from the Lord. Verse Number 3, but Jonah ran away from the Lord and headed for Tarshish. He went down to Joppa, where he found a ship bound for that port. After paying the fare, he went aboard and sailed for Tarshish to flee from the Lord. So Jonah said, you know what? I'm not going to Nineveh. I'm going to Tarshish. I'm out of here. Has anybody ever did that? The Lord told you to do something and you're like, why? Lord, you sure you want me to do that? Or why are you asking me to do that? And then you just ignore him, or you just don't want to do it, or you drag your feet to do it, or you do half of it. I've been there, done that, and have several t-shirts for it. And so after paying the fare, he went aboard and sailed for Tarshish to flee from the Lord. So he called himself running from the Lord. Y'all, has anybody ever been there before where you like, I'm going to run from God on this one? Lord, you're going to have to catch me later. Verse 4. Then the Lord sent a great wind on the sea, and such a violent storm arose that the ship threatened to break up. All the sailors were afraid and cried out to each own God, and they threw the cargo into the sea to lighten the ship. But guess what, y'all? But Jonah had gone below deck, so he's in this isolated place where he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. So all of this is going on, but Jonah is asleep, y'all. He's like, listen, I am not going to do what the Lord has asked me to do. I am out of here. I am going down in the middle of this little section of this ship, and they will not know that I'm here. But the Lord himself caused a wind and a wave and a great violent storm to come. And some of us have been through some storms because of our lack of following through with what the Lord has asked us to do. Some of us have been through some storms because of people connected to us, their lack of follow through. But this is the thing, y'all, for 2019, for us to live our best life, because we've heard that so much. Oh, I'm living my best life. In order for us to live our best life, there are some things that we have to accept responsibility for. And can we start by accepting responsibility for the fact that some of us have enjoyed being in the cave? What do you mean? Some of us have just enjoyed being to ourselves and not having to be responsible for accepting the leadership position, not having to start the business, not having to walk in this relationship, not having to be connected to these individuals with this particular platform. You have just been able to just do you. And now God is saying, no, I have work for you to do. So I'm preparing for this podcast. The Spirit of the Lord revealed to me that many of us are experiencing selected spiritual hibernation. In my research, I learned that in the annual cycle of bear activity, there are 5 levels of cave hibernation. And so as I studied about these 5 levels of cave hibernation, the Lord gave me some revelation about how we function and the different levels that cause us to be in cave dweller activity. So what happens is we go through these situations in life, and then we'll go through these levels of cave activity where we say, okay, well, level 1, hibernation, called hiding. So we just hide. We hide out. We hide out. I'll explain what that is in a second. The second one is walking hibernation, where we're just making it. So we're not sharing anything. Somebody asks how we're doing, and our response is, oh, I'm making it. Oh, I'm great. All is well with me. The third one is normal activity, business as usual. You're masking it. Nobody around you knows what you're going through. They don't know how you're feeling. They don't know what you're thinking. They don't know that the situation has happened in your marriage. They don't know what's going on with your job. Some of them have no clue that you're dealing with situations. You just have a mask on. So you're masking. The fourth one is overindulging. So that's called hyperphagia, overindulging, where you are literally filling up on things that gratify your flesh. But you have still been in this isolated place and nobody knows. You haven't confided in anyone to tell them about where you are. And then the last one is where you have made a decision to come out, or the Lord himself is pushing you out. And that's called fall transition or purging. And so Jonah went from being in this place where he's hearing from the Lord. He's getting a directive from the Lord. And he goes into number 1, hiding. This is the first level of hibernation. So verse 3, it says, but Jonah ran away from the Lord and headed from Tarshish. So hibernation or hiding out, during this phase, we will conceal ourselves from the view or notice of others, sometimes the view or notice of God, seeking protection to evade responsibility, or to hide behind without being recognized. These are the folks that I've been guilty of saying this myself, where I just want to be in the background. God is pushing you forward and you just want to be in behind the scenes. I don't want my name to be on anything. I don't want to be identified. I don't want to be in the front at all. I just want to be in the back. Just hide me out. Or you are in a place where you don't want people to know the qualities or the gifts that you have. And so you kind of hide out. You're in plain sight, but you're hidden. You're hidden. So nobody really knows the extent of what you're doing or how you're operating or the gifts that are on the inside of you. Those are the ones, many of us have probably experienced this too, where you want to go to the big church. You don't want anybody to know your name. You come in late, you leave early. You're kind of incognito when it comes to being in spaces, or you don't necessarily want to be the person speaking, public speaking, or you don't want to be in the front as it relates to organizing. You just want to kind of support others and you are the cheerleader for everybody else. But when it comes to you yourself, you are hiding. Level 2, walking hibernation. You're making it. So Jonah walked away from God. He went down to Joppa, where he found a ship bound for the port. So he rowed out, walking away. So that is where you're making it. You're just surviving. You're just getting by. You're not thriving. You're not living your best life, but you're simply going through the motions. You're saying, you know what? I know that I'm called to greatness, but I'm just going to kind of go over here and just be over here. You know that you should be doing all these awesome things, but you just decided, I'll wait until next year until I kind of get myself together. But you know that you're not living your best life. You're not living at your highest potential. You're not accomplishing all the goals. This is where procrastination comes in, where you are procrastinating and you're waiting till the last minute to do stuff because you just don't feel like you have the ability to organize yourself to be on point. You just kind of spread yourself thin because you're just making it, and if you put some structure in place and begin to put some things in place, then you would actually be able to see yourself grow and see yourself accomplish more. Level 3, normal activity. So business as usual, you're making it. You're masking, you're covering yourself with a mask, camouflage, disguise. And what I call this, fake it till you make it. You don't reveal your true feelings or emotions. You're guarded. You are withdrawn. You could be in the middle of 50 people and you're not going to really say much. You're going to have very surface, generic conversations. Nobody's going to get close to you. Nobody's going to know what's going on with you in your mind, your heart. You don't trust people. You don't trust yourself. You're just in this place where it's just normal activity. You're masking. You don't really want anybody to know your true identity. I have lived that many, many times. Level 4, hyperphagia, which is overindulgent. That's when you have too much of something enjoyable. So that's you're overeating, over drinking, you are binge snacking, you are just overdoing it, being greedy. It's like your flesh, you're desiring things of the flesh, but you're doing it as a way to emotionally stabilize yourself. Not necessarily because you want to do it, because you just want to feel better about your situation. And so instead of you venting, instead of you going to counseling, instead of you reaching out, instead of you talking to people, you just kind of overindulge, where you just kind of disconnect. And you are in this place where you are just overindulging. So that's the person who you they say, let me go get these several bottles of wine. Or I'm going to go out to eat and I'm going to eat. I'm going to order all this stuff. Or you go to the snack aisle and you are like loading up on snacks. But you're doing it because you are trying to feel something that only God can feel. Help us, Lord. And then level 5 is the fall transition, the purging. And that is the erupt or violence of a group of people from an organizational place, or that's when the Lord himself is pushing you out and saying, you know what, you cannot go any further. And so when we look back at the text, we see Jonah. And so he goes down to Joppa, where he found a ship, and he boards right there at the ship to go to Tarshish. And so that is him going to this walking hibernation place. He then pays the fare and gets on and sails for Tarshish to flee from the Lord. So right here, he is literally masking because he's not supposed to be in this ship. So the question is, how did he get on this ship? How did you get into that relationship? How did you get into that particular situation? How did you get connected in that group? You know that that's not really where you're supposed to be, but it felt comfortable. It looked comfortable, and you could just mask yourself and just kind of fit in, but you're not fitting in.